So Peter, congratulations on the award, and can you please tell us a little bit about your involvement with Michael Milburn and ISIS?
Well, Trevor, it goes back too many years now that I can actually try and think of when it all actually started. Michael was the head of Epicure Catering in Melbourne, and there were many events that we worked on together. One of the most famous ones was an event we did for ATE, when we had to find a venue in Melbourne that could do 3,000 people, and the client said, it's got to be uniquely Melbourne. And what we did is actually go and take over the pit building down in Albert Park, and Michael created this amazing themed event with fantastic food, and from there on we worked on many events together, and Michael and I became terrific friends and worked on lots of different events. And in that time, Michael was involved in ISIS. I wasn't. I knew ISIS. I went along to a lot of the functions. And one day, Michael rang me up and said, I'm going to take you to lunch. And we went out, and he said, your turn now. ISIS needs someone like you at this particular time. Would you consider going on the committee to eventually go on and become the president? I said, absolutely, I'd want to be able to do it. So we went on for a year. Then after that, I took over as president and ran 3 years here in Melbourne, and hopefully, put a lot into ISIS, tried to change ISIS, tried to make it more relevant to its members, tried to make sure that people came along to functions and I went and learnt something about that from there. And a lot of that was due to Michael and his influence and his support to help me do all that.
So Michael's involvement in getting ISIS kicked off in Melbourne.
That's true. Michael was one of the founders of ISIS here, and one of the few people who actually said, we're going to do it. Remember, ISIS started in Sydney, and it was almost like Lena Malouf was one of the people up there, Romain, Clifford Wallace, people like that who actually started it, who worked in the events industry and said, no, I want to be part of this. Michael was one of the ones down here with Lexa Becky, John Smith, and a few others. I wasn't one of the original founders, I must admit, at that particular time. But as ISIS slowly evolved, then it became apparent that it was going to be an opportunity for the industry to network with each other, support each other. And for that, I think it's the most fantastic thing. And it's really gone from strength to strength since those days.
At his obituary, not the obituary, the memorial gig, you talked about football with him.
I did, Trevor. It was one of those things where Michael was the most, Michael was very conservative, very thoughtful. Everything about him was, you'd think, oh, that's Michael Milburn, that's the way he is. One day, he invited me to the football, and he knew that I break for Melbourne, Michael break for Collingwood. And of course, Epicure do the catering at the MCG, which is just over the road here when we're standing tonight. And that day, it was freezing cold. It was absolutely pelting down with rain. And Michael said, we're going out. And I said, oh, Michael, can't we watch it from inside? I've got a beautiful table here, got a glass of wine. He said, no, the footy's about to start. We went out there, and Michael turned. Michael became this person who would yell abuse at the umpire. He would tell what his players were doing. And I sat there going, Michael, I can't believe this is you. And he was one of those passionate people that just loved the game. And then at quarter time when the siren stopped, he'd say, well, Peter, what did you think of that? And he would turn back into this mild-mannered person that he was. And that was lots of fun, and I saw a different side to him there. And I know that if he was here this very night, Collingwood are over there beating Essendon as we speak, and are the favourites for the grand final this year. If Collingwood ever won this year, I know Michael upstairs would be going, I told you so, Peter. You needed to break for Collingwood and not for Melbourne. So that's one of the great memories I have of him, because that was the way he was. He was passionate about everything he did. But sometimes you looked at him going, I can't believe that's the real Michael Milburn.
Thank you very much. Just